You're listening to The New Paris. I'm your host, Lindsay Tremuta. If I had to describe today's guest in only a few words, I'd say he's a French insider without pretension. André Michel, with whom I have discovered an entire web of mutual friends and contacts, is someone with a deep and varied knowledge of food and culture and a talent for weaving it all into compelling storytelling and events. He has an extraordinary ability to navigate the many layers of Paris with ease. He's like the city's unofficial mayor, equally at home in a dive bar as in a gilded salon with diplomats. He moves between circles and settings with a kind of social fluency I find rather astounding, and he does so with great humor and humility. In this episode, he joins me to talk about what it means to know Paris, its rhythms, its people, its unwritten rules, and why there's never been a better or more dynamic time to visit or live in the city. André Michel, welcome to the show.
Bonjour. Bonjour, Lindsay.
Is that your real name?
Great first question. First of all, I'm very. I can't tell you how happy I am to be in this podcast, and I can only imagine all the people listening to it. It's extreme high quality pair of ears you have
From America.
on your
From America, yeah.
For sure, and I'm truly honored to be part of their life a little bit, and I hope they won't skip too quickly to their next podcast. But André Michel is my pen name.
I love it.
For all my food writing and my travel writing.
And you've been doing that for many years. Was that something you started when you were still in the U.S., because you lived in the U.S. for many years? Or was that something that you started once you came back and reintegrated into Parisian culinary society?
I think I was lucky enough to find my purpose, which I think is not too dissimilar to yours, in the sense that I really love to shine a light on people doing ordinary things in an extraordinary way. It just got to me. When I was younger, I wanted to be a chef de cuisine back in France. But you have to understand it was the 90s and everyone told me not to do it.
Because you would get, like sauté pans thrown at your head.
Yeah, sauté pan. And I think to a certain extent, it's very true in a lot of kitchens, and not just in France, but especially at the high level. Then it was very violent, and not just physically, but I think morally as well. That's why I've got such great respect from everyone and anyone working in the hospitality business, because it's such. It's not even a job, I guess. It's a vocation. You have to do it with such dedication. You have to give it all. And I got this extraordinary respect for them. So to go back to your question, I just started sharing on social my passion for certain restaurants, for certain hotels, for certain people doing things the right way. And I think, I don't know, for some reason, like certain magazines started to notice. And I got, for instance, Fanny Pechioda, that some of you may know because she's an incredible woman behind My Little Paris, who had asked me to do, back in 2018, a city guide of Los Angeles.
You're the one who did that. Oh, my goodness. This is a legitimate reaction. I did not know that you were the one who penned that book she did.
I did that book.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I'm glad you have to tell everyone listening to you that you're not faking your emotions in real time. I don't know what that means for the rest of the things you say.
No, I mean, legitimately, I did not make the connection.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I did that guide, and many magazines...
when you were living in LA?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Many magazines approached me. Some of them were really like, I grew up with magazines. I grew up in
we're
this,
the generation that...
Yeah, which I guess makes us old in a way.
Mm-hmm.
But, like just reading dozens of magazines a week. And some of the magazines I've loved, like The Gourmand out of London, David and Marina, which I think are two of the most exquisite humans on the planet that work also a lot with Hermès. But they had this incredible magazine on art and food called The Gourmand. I was lucky to collaborate with them, with Purple Magazine, with Autre Magazine in LA, with many other publications. And that's kind of how it started. And then lots of other people, some famous juries.
Food juries, restaurant juries,
hospitality juries asked me to to join them, but it really came out of passion and a bit out of coincidence. And that's maybe the best thing in life, when just things come to you.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
Because I've got this passion, and I'm sure, Lindsay, we share some of those obsessive qualities
I think so.
of keeping lists for many cities. I was lucky to live in quite a few cities and travel a lot for the various works I've done before. And I think sharing a beautiful place is one of the greatest gifts.
So you don't believe in gatekeeping?
I don't believe in gatekeeping at all.
It's something that's been coming up a lot in the media when you're in this conversation about over-tourism. And, in a city like Paris, obviously we have so many restaurants you can choose from. But some people will cite certain bistros that are beloved that the French press love.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, when you go, there are a lot of Anglo tourists. And so there's this idea of, well, who is it for? Is it really for everybody? How can you control who, snags a table and who doesn't, right? I mean, it really is kind of democratic. But just to say that there's been a discussion with online recently again about gatekeeping.
Look, and it's something I think a lot about, but truly, I think we should be very worried about the real enemy here. And the real enemy are fast food chains, are coffee chains that are taking over some of the most valuable real estate that we have in cities. And I will never hesitate to recommend a place, even if I love it and maybe I secretly want to keep it for me, of someone that puts all their love into what they're doing. And even, by the way, even if they get really busy, and Lindsay, we know, and you've certainly talked about so many places that,
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely guilty of, doing this.
But I just want us to think for a second of even the inspiration, because when you see great people, I mean, Folderol is an incredible example.
We love them.
We're not far from them whilst we're recording that podcast, but from one day to the next, they started to have an ice cream bouncer, which is an incredible concept, and even I think the New York Times wrote about it.
They did.
But look at how many people they inspired to do great ice cream, to do things with natural wine, and I think that's what I want to look at is just the inspiration when you do the right things. All those people could have opened yet another bad coffee place or could have had a franchise in this fast food X or Y, and yet they chose to do something that they saw in other places. So gatekeeping for me is the wrong problem. We should support small businesses, always.
Agreed. So you moved back to Paris, though, after all these years in LA. You moved back a few years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 3 years ago.
What, for you, was the biggest change you noticed? Now, granted, COVID had happened, that forced through a lot of different changes, positively and negatively, obviously. As someone who, grew up here, left, and came back, what struck you the most?
Paris, for me, is one of the most extraordinary cities in the world, especially right now. Every city goes through their ups and downs, and Los Angeles is a good example of that. It's very cyclical. There's times where the whole world looks on LA, and there's other time where you just don't want to be there. Paris, had certainly horrible years, and I can only think of some of the tragic moments that the city lived, and some of its inhabitants as well, especially in the 2010s. But I think post-COVID, a lot of people, and I can think especially of a lot of fellow Americans, that ask themselves, what do I want my life to be? What's important for me? And a lot of those values, I think, were really embodied by Paris. And Paris is by no means perfect, but I think just the quality of life, the fact that people maybe take their time a little more, maybe the fact that there are, certain things around education and health that feel a bit different than, for instance, in the US. And just the fact that, you're right in the center of Europe and you can just go very quickly into other cities. So I think right now Paris is glorious. There's no doubt about it. It's also thanks to a lot of foreigners that made their ways here, and a lot of Americans, by the way. And some of them are probably listening to us right now. But it's certainly a great energy in this city.
So you don't think that's limited to the food world? It's
No.
because of all sorts of shifts.
Yeah, and you look at many great things, like I think the Olympics brought so much great energy in this town. But, you look at the art world, 20 years ago, Paris had just like local galleries. And now you got all those international galleries. You look at, how many people are looking after Paris for like interior design. And it's not just fashion and food anymore, and there's world-class, even like I think about my musician friends, like music studios where some of the greatest artists in the world fly all the way to come to Paris for. And truly, what I really love with Paris is although it's probably not as important as it used to be in terms of influence, specifically political and business influence, it's still a place where most of my friends will come at least once a year.
Yeah, the pace of visitors is unmatched. I don't know anybody, any friends who live in other sort of global capitals that almost have, it's not a complaint, but have this observation that almost every week multiple people they know might be coming through, or acquaintances or former colleagues. I mean, it's just everyone wants to come through here.
Sure.
And then ask you where to eat.
Of course, but that's what people bother us the most, and it's a beautiful gift. But, it reminded me of that Michel Houellebecq book where he sees France as like this, giant Disneyland where people come and it's like this giant museum and it's not necessarily as the France we want to see, like French people as this political leader and business leaders. It's true that, we lost the influence we once had. But when it comes to I think, art de vivre and lifestyle and certain things are unparalleled.
But that's a kind of political influence.
Sure.
I mean, it's soft power, but it's still important, which I think our current government knows.
Yeah, but I think they could do even more. I don't know if you have like officials listening to you. I certainly hope. But I think like we are totally, and I'm looking at that through my eyes of someone that traveled a bit. We could do so much more to welcome tourists properly.
Well, it's actually amusing that not even just from a tourism perspective, but selling their gifts, selling their own talents abroad. So there was an architect, and I won't name whom, I was interviewing about one of his recent big restorations. And he said when he goes to, the Emirates or he goes to South America and he's talking about, all these big projects that the French are involved in, he's like, none of them have gotten sort of the proper sales pitch from French cultural representatives because none of them can speak English well enough. And none of them have sort of the wherewithal to sell what France does best. So, you and I sort of take that for granted because we see all these people coming here. But in terms of pushing out a sort of narrative, I guess in his eyes, this was not being done to the extent that it needs to be done, which I thought was such an interesting point to make.
Sure.
Because we're very navel gazing, obviously, but certainly other cultures look to France, but at some point you need to be able to go after projects as well.
I think historically, I look at countries like the UK or Korea that are extremely good at soft power. I'm not even talking about the US, but just exporting their culture and making it like a currency. I think we could always be better at that. But there's too much.
Such a good example.
Yeah, there's too much self-flogging from the French people, I think.
That is a cultural trait. Mm-hmm. It's in the DNA, just like,
in the DNA.
Getting angry about things. Before we were recording, you seemed to suggest that I have maybe become a little more French than...
in a good way or in a bad way?
I don't know. What were you implying?
I think, Lindsay, it's if anything, it's a great compliment to be more French when you live in France for so many years. No, but I think anyone that listens to your podcast for more than one episode knows all the traits and cliches that what being French entail in the best and in sometimes the worst ways. But that being said, I can only be so happy to hear so many, especially Americans, spending more time in Paris and actually coming here to just, I think, feel closer to certain values they miss from home.
For sure. And you think Paris, and maybe this is a question that's not just for Paris, but the entire country, you think the French have been able to hold on to these values and that they will endure?
So impossible to say, but what I can say is I think, if we can just be proud of what we have, if we could share more of how much our qualité de vie is important, and at the same time be a little more inspired by culture like the American culture to do more business, to be more better at selling ourselves and all that, I think that it can only be great. But just talking about Paris, I came here biking. I actually brought some ice cream from Jacques Génin.
I was gonna credit you with bringing a surprise to the podcast episode.
You mean no one brings you gifts? No one bribes you, Lindsay?
Maybe someone has brought wine, or people have made coffee or brought coffee, but this was like a pretty exceptional thing. It's a hot day. You rode your bike. It's not all that far, but ice cream melts very quickly.
So we say, yeah. But the point was more about biking, because you said the big difference. We can talk about ice cream, so trust me, for 2 hours, and it's coming after, be ready, after the commercial break. But just to talk about bikes, how much, I was lucky enough, I studied a bit in Amsterdam, and just seeing like the joy of biking in Paris just over the past few years, how much it changed and what it does to the city, what it does to the air quality, what it does to how breezy it feels. Like, in just a few years, like with more green, more biking, I think it's truly magical to witness that from our lifetime to start with, and also coming from Los Angeles, which, is not known as the most bike-friendly city.
Or like pedestrian
or
city.
pedestrian
like,
at all.
What do you? I mean,
it was an understatement.
Yeah, understand. I still don't understand how they're going to host the Olympics, but that's a separate conversation.
Look, talking about the Olympics, I'm gonna say something. I was one of the very few French people that stayed during the Olympics. Most French people left. And I had lived that. I was spending time in London in 2012, and it was a bit the same with British people. And I have every faith in Los Angeles to do something incredible, because there's something magical that happens all the time, and I don't know where that fear/hatred is coming from, of people saying, "Oh, LA is going to be a mess and it's going to be horrible." I think the Olympics are one of the most magical things that can happen to a city and to a community, because for once you've got the whole world coming at you, and it's just celebrating play and different cultures. And I think the Paris, I don't know, were you there during the Olympics, Lindsay?
I was in and out, but I definitely felt the magic.
It was magical. Like I had a policewoman offering me a rose, and policemen singing in the street, and the streets were never that clean and safe, and you had just people being happy. All the grumpy people left, and you just had foreigners from around the world.
They regretted leaving. The only thing I'll say, and this happens in every single city, is that you cannot guarantee a financial return for most businesses.
Yeah,
so there are people I know who have businesses who really struggled when it could have been, or when it's usually their prime moment, whether they have a lot of, tourist clientele or whatever it is. So it was both joyful and challenging for a fair amount of the city. But I agree, it did us a lot of good on a personal level, I think.
And it's such a great, I see it as an incredible advertising campaign for
that's exactly
the city.
what
So even if they struggled last year, I mean, I don't know if you saw the street this year, but I don't think Paris has ever been that busy. So it's...
Well, the numbers certainly suggest that,
crazy. Like everyone and their mother had the idea of Paris is not that bad. Should we go next summer? And so ultimately, I'll be in Los Angeles in 2028, and I think we all should.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the kind of food, I think you said sort of simple things done exceptionally, right? Was that the way you phrased it?
People are doing ordinary things extraordinarily well. Yeah.
Right, okay, that's perfect. So the other thing that we get a lot of in Paris are concepts. We don't like that word, but concepts or niche establishments that I feel like could only exist here. like something that's like an ode to pâté en croûte in all its forms, something that's just like, I don't know, Liège wine things, like I just feel like there's something for every, almost like Japan. I mean, parts of Japan are this way, right?
Sure.
Like obsessive. Are there a few of these kind of niche places that, because we're in the spirit of not gatekeeping, that you think people should seek out when they come?
Absolutely, Lindsay. I'm glad you asked. No. See, I can fake it too. No. In all seriousness, I completely agree with you. There's such a reverence in France to craft, especially like food craft, that sometimes it's almost ridiculous. Like
it's like laughable. It feels like a caricature.
Exactly. Like you come back or you bring like American or even any foreigner friend to a thing and they're like, I can't believe there's this store that sells like 60 sorts of pâté en croûte, and so on and so forth. So I think, that's something, the passion that we love. So to go straight into it, tons. I mean, I can't even, don't get me started, but okay, let me give you a few. The first one I think I can think of, you talked about pâté en croûte, but you have Johann Lastre and his wife Marion. They have Lastre sans apostrophe in the sevens that I think, Lindsay, you know really well. If I'm not wrong, it's even in your guide. I don't know if your podcast listeners know that, but there's a great guide you did to Paris.
True, but you brought me something that was not actually pâté en croûte, but you brought me the most insane lemon cake.
Yeah.
And
they do a 4-quart lemon cake. Yeah.
But I've never had one this fragrant and buttery, and I mean, because usually lemon cakes or gâteau de voyage are very dry.
Yeah.
And I would think, given the butter quantities, it should not be dry.
Yeah.
This was perfection, like for a week.
Incredible. Yeah. I mean, look, the answer is always more butter. There's no ways around it. I think he's even part of l'Amicale du Gras, which is like this.
Oh my God. Yes. Please go on.
Are you a member of l'Amicale du Gras yet?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Can you translate what that?
L'Amicale du Gras would be this kind of like, I don't know, brotherhood around fat in some way.
the fat brotherhood.
Yeah. So it's like, I guess, a diploma that people that use a lot of butter give to each other, only in France, as they would say. No, but to go quickly, so Lastre is incredible. I think in the first, I am obsessed with this spice store by the Rollinger family.
Of course.
That you know too well. Mathilde Rollinger, I think it's always a magic store. There's this kind of like magic of like, they have probably 20 sorts of peppers and crazy spice mix. I'm obsessed with, I don't know, there's so many. You just want like stores or?
Whatever. I just think already, you've told people about l'Amicale du Gras.
L'Amicale du Gras is incredible.
Insane.
Yeah, we love l'Amicale du Gras. I think right now what Butcher of Paris is doing is very special.
Yeah, I've seen you there actually.
Yeah.
You don't know that I've seen you there, but you were deep in conversation, so I sort of let you sit there and have your lunch, but...
It's a little creepy. I've seen you there.
But that's in the Marché des Enfants Rouges.
It's in Marché des Enfants Rouges. I think they have some of the greatest meat and wine in the city, and they're really, really good people. They really care about how they not only they treat their employees, how they treat their clients, but also how people treat the animals that you eat and the grape that you drink. So there's something pretty magic there. The thing is, in Paris, I've got an endless list of those people, but like I can think of, I don't know, like right now I'm obsessed as well with what Chez Georges is doing. It's not necessarily the most surprising request, but I think they really nailed down the simplicity of. You're not a fan?
No, it's just that no, I haven't heard anybody talk about this in a long, long time. So.
About Chez Georges?
Yeah. It's been a while.
Yeah, no, I think Chez Georges, especially right now, like Jean-Gabriel, the owner, he told me this very beautiful thing the other day. He said, look, what we did is we didn't touch the decor. We pay well our waiters and waitresses, and they've been there forever. We do everything from scratch, and it's seasonal. And we're pretty kind to people. And that's all.
La base.
And but truly, if I can think, there's not that many places, even in Paris, that do that.
No,
you
you're
know?
right. You're absolutely
So
right.
simplicity sometimes is obvious, but it's also a very delicate art. Another thing which there's a person I would like to give a shout out, because I think we truly in Paris in hospitality we have a genius, and maybe you will have him on the podcast. And that person is Paul Dupuis.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Paul Dupuis is this incredible guy in his 30s who has an incredible checkup company near Place Vendôme, which is called Zoe. But as a hobby, and it's wild to me that a guy can have a hobby like that, he decided to open some of the best Japanese restaurants in the world. So he opened Sushi Shunai.
Oh, yes, of course.
He opened Sushi Yoshinaga. He opened Yoshino in New York, that Pete Wells named one of the best restaurants in the city and the best Japanese restaurant in the city. And he just opened 2 weeks ago Sushi Hanada in the 7th. And that's his hobby. So imagine the guy, I can't even quote you a hobby I have, like maybe biking. And the guy and his hobby as a hobby would go on and open some of the greatest Japanese food made outside of Japan.
And Sushi Shunai is the story, an incredible story, right?
Absolutely.
Where the sushi master passed away.
Yes.
And his wife took over.
Yeah.
And maintained or earned
regained the
Michelin star, which is the first time a woman in sushi has ever achieved that recognition. Right?
Absolutely.
So that's all in Paris. Yeah, the relationship between France and Japan is incredible, but I did not know that this guy had a day job.
He has, a very busy day job.
And what do you mean a checkup? He has a checkup.
I mean, again,
like a jewelry thing?
No, like a health checkup. Like he's specialized in health longevity, and he has, and this is not a sponsored post at all, but he has one of the most impressive health checkup company in the world, Place Vendôme. Where you do a checkup for half a day, and then after your checkup, you go in one of the most beautiful Japanese-inspired spa I've ever seen in my own life.
See, okay, this is where I think that people like to joke that I'm the mayor of Paris, which is silly. It's just like a silly thing.
Well, that's a great compliment.
It's a lovely, funny compliment that cannot possibly be even remotely true. But you have this deep encyclopedic knowledge of some not just niche restaurants and niche shops, but underground things happening and secret clubs and and that's incredible. That taps into something I am barely touching the beneath the surface of in this city.
I don't believe that. That's too kind. But when I see your guide, I think you're even more tapped than I am. But the thing is, like you, I'm drawn to people. And I think good people attract good people. And so when I meet someone and they tell me about someone else, it's incredible. For instance, another shout out is, and you know that, one of my dear friend that at first was not a friend, was just someone I admired, is Bruno Verjus, who has Table, which to me I think is one of the greatest restaurants, not just in France, but in the world. Not the cheapest, certainly, but one of the greatest. He introduced me to another friend of his, who's Jacques Génin. And, it's so magical because those two people share so much. They certainly had a very different upbringing and a different childhood. But just having those people that respect each other, it's a bit like, you're Paul McCartney introduces you to Bob Dylan, and in my world at least, and we are very lucky in France to have this community of people that I feel the hospitality world is really giving and generous in their friendships and truly it makes me very happy to also just see those people supporting each other
and to be doing events here, right? Because that's the other part of you write about food and travel, and you're organizing events, and you do stuff with very important leaders and innovators, and but I'm wondering, now that you're back and it's been 3 years and you're seeing how things are going, and also given what's happening in the country you used to live in and that I used to live in, what can France and what can Paris maybe do? Is it going to be the future of big ideas and innovation and responsible development, or is it, are we at risk of the same thing occurring. Not to be Debbie Downer, but we did just the country just passed a pretty shitty law that reintroduces certain insecticide use that's been linked to cancer and killing off certain bee populations that are important to biodiversity. And the extremists will say this is basically Trumpisme à la française, right? So it's the beginning of Trump-related moves, which I think I don't know how to really contextualize that. I don't know whether it's too extreme or not, but this is sort of this looming fear. There's like this anxious cloud as we move toward 2027 when Macron will be leaving his position and we don't know what awaits. So I'm just sort of wondering your take on these like really light issues, really. Does Paris have an opportunity here, lead the way?
I think that there are two kind of people in this world, and I'd rather be in the side of the optimistic, and it's certainly what I hear in what you're asking is of course a lot of fears and a lot of frustrations, and it's certainly progress is not that throughout history. I studied politics, but it's never been a straight line, and I think that's true for sadly most things, and it's not because you think certainly nothing is ever granted, and I hate to say horrible things that are just so obvious, but it's not because certain things are gloomy now that we cannot be and we shouldn't be more optimistic. I believe from what I know of this country and the French people that certainly. There's a lot of anger and there's a lot of things that people don't feel necessarily represented, and that inequalities are just growing, and certainly people deserve a lot more than what they're having right now, and sadly it's not getting better. So there's certainly a bit of a feeling, one of the book which really was a big shift, I think, in my thinking was Capital by Thomas Piketty a couple of years ago, which was this huge book that became a bestseller in the US and as well in France. It was very chic, funnily enough, to have that in the US, I remember.
Really?
But I don't think no one really read until the end, but it certainly was the right book at the right time, and then Piketty went on to write, and all his thing was just about the rise of inequalities. And his thesis, if I can bastardize it, and I hope all the economists listening, and including some of them that I know and I studied with that work with him, would not be too mad at me if I summarize it this way, but is that inequalities always lead to revolutions. And we certainly see, I think, that the arrival of Trump is in many ways a form of a revolution. Will there be more? That's up to history to see. But the anger, I think I can feel from a lot of people, that there's going to be certainly major shifts happening in the coming years, and never underestimate the power that certain people have to just fight for what they believe is right.
Especially in this country.
Absolutely. But, I have Spanish roots, and my grandparents were displaced during the Spanish Civil War. So I know, I think in my DNA, a thing or two about things that are unfair or certain fights. But I really believe in people fighting for what's right ultimately. So certainly we're going to live very uncertain times. But I think we can only be very optimistic that, I want to believe in humans. And everything I see in my world, which is a world of hospitality, of travel, of food, of people doing good things, I see so many people just being inspired to start good things and to feed people and to nourish them in the right way, against pesticides, as you say, against fast food chains, or against standardization of this world, or industrialization of this world. I may sound a little communist here. I hope your American listeners will
I think
forgive
they're
me.
used to this tone.
Yes, it's not, I really believe in capitalism, of course, and I worked for one of the biggest American company for a while, so I'm not, I'm certainly not one to raise the communist flag, but I will certainly say that, values are what keeps people alive, and especially in France, so I'm optimistic.
And as long as Jacques Genin keeps turning out those chocolates and that ice cream,
yes,
we can get through it, right?
We better get through it. But it's, what I see, especially in France, and that's something I was a bit missing in some other countries, but there's a lot of people making things for love. Not so much for the money. I don't want to be naive. Of course, they all have to pay bills. But when I see the dedication that certain people have, that's almost Japanese, and I see that also in other countries, by the way, in Italy, in the US for certain things. But there's, to me, nothing more beautiful. I was actually, and Lindsay, I'm really sorry, I was a bit late to your podcast because the employees of Jacques Genin, it's not a joke, and it's not to blame anyone because I think it's incredible, took 15 minutes to churn the ice cream. Like, I don't know if you know, but for me, like an ice cream, and that's something that Grom used to do before they were bought by Unilever.
They were bought by Unilever?
Yeah.
Ugh.
A couple years ago.
Excellent to know.
But what they would train their employees to do was to like mix energetically with their hand the ice cream. So then it wouldn't be, so
compact.
So compact. You want the air to come. And Jacques uses like the state of the art. I think it's German made or Swiss made. Don't quote me on that. The Pacojet, which is used in 3-star Michelin kitchen. And right before serving a scoop of ice cream, they have to Pacojet the ice cream, which take at least 4 minutes. So it's like the most inefficient ice cream store in the world, but that's precisely why it's one of the best.
And of the 3 flavors you brought, the most unique was the petit pois, the pea.
Yeah.
It's a sorbet, or is it an ice cream? It's a sorbet?
I think this one was an ice cream.
It was divine.
Yeah.
All of them are divine.
He's known to do, right in the summer, whenever he feels like it, truly, crazy flavors. And I was so moved by his tarragon ice cream a couple weeks ago, or his red pepper ice cream.
He is something else.
He's something else.
I remember when he launched the caper and dark chocolate, what do we call them? Like ganache, really. I think they're ganache. And I was like, surely people are not going to buy this. And
really?
They do. Yeah, and they do because actually the combination works really well. Just like red pepper and dark chocolate. Other places have obviously, played with that. But it's really spectacular, and I really respect this idea of remaining small and doing things well. I'm not someone who's going to call someone a sellout because they open 5 locations, but there is something very rare in what he has decided to do, which is have 2 locations in Paris. Only one of them has the lab, and he told me in interviews years ago that he turned down all of the offers to open something in Japan, and they're, basically clamoring to get him over there, but he won't do it.
I even have a crazier story. I hope I can share it.
Oh,
but
he was... Is it a scoop?
I don't know if it's a scoop, but we can call it a scoop. He was summoned into Bernard Arnault's office, which is, very official, Avenue Montaigne. And apparently Mr. Arnault offered him to buy him for a lot of money.
Oh
like
my God.
A lot of money. And Jacques told him, with all the respect that he has, I would love to, but you have to explain to me how will I clone myself. And he declined. And
oh my God!
And you have to give it to Jacques with such a free spirit. But you're talking about a guy, Jacques. For all the French speakers in your podcast, I would strongly encourage to listen to another podcast, if I can.
Yes, go ahead.
Plug other podcasts. There's a podcast by France Culture called À Voix Nue, where there's 5 episodes on Jacques Genin, where he opened himself to no one before. And it's one of the most moving. I cried personally listening to it. One of the most beautiful, I think, podcasts about this food genius that there's ever been. And Jacques only does pastries in the weekend.
I know.
And he never given the recipe to anyone. It's only him making him by hand, like a sushi chef. We talked a lot about Japan today, which I don't think is that bit of a coincidence. And, he's one of the biggest hearted guy I've ever met. And we're very lucky to have Jacques.
No, I am so amazed by what he has done. And Jade, his daughter, who was doing legal studies and was on the road to become a lawyer, was like, oh, but I miss the chocolate. And so she created her own chocolate shop on Avenue de l'Opéra.
Yes.
Very different from what her father
Yeah.
does, but similarly quite rigorous in sourcing and quality control. And I really think that, that is something to really champion and celebrate today.
Do you know the story about the jade and chocolate? Because it's kind of full circle.
Well, because she was tasting it and helping out her father.
Yeah, but Jacques was not a chocolate guy.
No, he was a chef.
He was
also,
a chef, but he started chocolate because of his daughter.
Ah non, dis-moi alors.
So he talks about it in his podcast. So again, I'm not revealing huge secrets there, but Jacques had a horrible childhood. And think about the most horrible childhood, I think it's even worse than that. And for him, Christmas was the most awful things because his parents were drinking and all sorts of abuse would happen. And he never had a great memory of Christmas. And when his daughter was born, he said, I want to become a chocolate fondeur. So like making chocolate, melting chocolate technically, because he doesn't make the chocolate himself. He melts it to make edible chocolate. So then my daughter could have the most beautiful Christmas every year. So that's how he started for his daughter.
Well, so then it's a full circle for her. And I think she ended up hopefully where she feels she was meant to be.
Yeah, I hope so.
So André.
Yes. Yes, Lindsay.
What... If you had to make one closing recommendation to listeners for this summer in Paris, if they're coming between now and let's say early September, what is something they should seek out, whether it's a museum or an outing or something in the public space? What is special to you right now?
Can I give just a little few things? A quick shout out?
Sure.
Really quick. It's like when you're generous, you just give too much. That's it. So... I think, by the way, the end of the year is going to be incredible. In October, one of the most exciting museums is opening, La Fondation Cartier, which is going to be super special. I'm also excited because for all the New York listeners or New York familiar listeners, there's going to be this great sauna spot that is going to open, Contrast, which for the fans of Other Ship, I don't know if you know, but in New York right now, there's this craze of going to the sauna as a social thing. Like you don't go to the bar, you go to the sauna.
Oh, interesting.
And Other Ship is killing it there. They do like even club nights where people are wearing swimsuits and just sweating together. Even a very dear friend who celebrated his birthday there.
Oh my gosh.
And that sauna culture, which I loved for many reasons. I'm very attached to it. Okay, so the new exciting things in Paris. The Butcher of Paris just opened a great spot, which is called Roasted. It's as well in Le Marché des Enfants Rouges. It opened in June, and I love it. It's around chicken and fries. So it either does fried chicken, and it's a bit of fried chicken tempura style, so it's very light, or roasted chicken with gratin dauphinois, fries, and homemade sauce, such as a delicious barbecue sauce that he makes from scratch every day.
Is it nearby
It's next to the Butcher of Paris in the Marché.
It's next to it.
So that's wonderful. Then if I were you, I would cross the street and go to this newish coffee shop, which is doing incredible things called Tiba.
I know that place. They're great.
Thank God you know that place, Lindsay. It's your job. This is not a game.
It's a tough crowd.
No, it's not Tiba.
No, they're really nice.
They're very nice. They're doing great things.
It's very much for coffee nerds, though.
Sure, but
if you're like lukewarm on coffee, it's not worth going.
I hope you're not too lukewarm on coffee. So I think these are the two new spots that I really love around that area. But there's always the classics. I can name like right now, Cheval d'Or is amazing. Le Duc is great. I think Parcel is doing wonderful things.
All places in the Eater Guide to Paris.
Exactly,
if I might plug myself. But wait, give me something that's not food related.
Sure.
For our listeners.
Art, spa, anything?
Well, I mean, I think you and I both have taken photos of the balloon that has returned. The Olympic Vasque.
Yeah, so, okay, maybe right now in Paris there's two very special things. So your listeners know probably about La Vasque, which is this hot air balloon with the flame that was up for the Olympics.
With Mathieu Léonard, the designer.
Mathieu Léonard. Who was there's a backstory to it. I can tell quickly to your listeners.
Do it, yeah.
I was lucky enough to get to spend time a bit with the organizers of the Olympics, and they did like this whole competition to have someone that would do the torch, that people would carry. And they had 5 very famous French designers. They all did their torch. And apparently, and it's more or less public, but Mathieu's torch was not the most beautiful. But Mathieu came with this other idea, which was like, by the way, we should do the torch, but we should do this hot air balloon because the first demonstration of the hot air balloon was right there for the King of France, and that's how we should bring it back. And he did that, and really that's one of the most magical things. Like suddenly you see there's almost like a religious ritual of people around like 10 p.m. every night. You have to go on the website and you see the Vasque slowly going up in the sky, and it's this fire. So we all know it's fake fire because it's LEDs and a mist of water, but it looks like fire. And there's this like fire going up in the sky and floating, and it's magical. And
it really is. And now it's going to come back every year until 2028, every summer. Exactly. So that's something people can see until I think it's like mid-September.
Exactly. It's very ephemeral and beautiful. And another thing ephemeral and beautiful is David Hockney's show at the Fondation Louis Vuitton.
It's fantastic.
David Hockney is, we all know that, probably one of the, if not the greatest painter alive. He's sadly not doing so well right now. He celebrated his 88th birthday yesterday. And David, I think for the first time, and hopefully not the last time, curated the show himself. Up to the colors of the walls, what paintings were there. And really, you have to give it to LVMH and to the Vuitton Foundation. They spared no expenses to do this incredible retrospective of his work, and they got all the most major pieces lent to them. And one of the most beautiful rooms, truly, where I was, all his paintings are so joyful, and the ones he made in Normandy recently after COVID, and all the portraits of his friends. But the room that surprised me the most and that really moved me the most is at the end, one of the tallest room of the Louis Vuitton Foundation. They did a video screen mapping, video projection, where they just animated a lot of his work that is not so known, because Hockney is obsessed with opera, and not Oprah Winfrey, but opera. Sorry for my French accent. And he maybe he's obsessed with opera too. Who knows? And they had like all the sets from like the various opera that he did animated. And so people are laying down on the ground and looking at all those magical sets that came out of his mind. And some of them look very 80s and 90s. And it's so spectacularly beautiful and moving. If we could all have the simple joy that Hockney has of painting every day, simple things as flowers. During COVID, he famously sent to all his friends every day a flower he would paint from his iPad. And if we can have that joy and share that curiosity, that creative spirit, whether we're in France, in the US, or anywhere else, truly that's one of the most inspiring person I've ever got the chance to meet, but also to just witness like just the art that's just so spectacular.
If we all did something like that every day, we might save the world.
I think that's all we can do.
However, I need to go back. I saw it, and I did not somehow end up in the room laying on the floor.
What happened?
I don't know, and now I'm really upset. I'm really upset.
Lindsay.
I know, I failed. Okay, time to go back for a dose of optimism that you have clearly brought to this show, André Michel.
Yeah, he had, there's this thing right at the entrance that he wrote. I think that was the first email he sent to his friend, and something he kept forever, is remember, it was during COVID, they can't cancel spring. Oh. And that's outside the Louis Vuitton Foundation.
That's right, it is on the outside,
in a neon sign. And again, back to your question earlier about the heavy climate there is right now, and the sadness and the frustration. They can't cancel spring, and I think they can't cancel people doing things with love. And that's what I think you and I have been celebrating, and I think we should never stop supporting and celebrating.
Il n'y a rien de plus à dire. André Michel, thank you so much.
No, Lindsay, merci. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your podcast and the joy you have at bringing all those incredible humans to the ears of even more incredible people, I'm sure.
Oh, okay, you can come back again.
With joy, truly. With more ice cream.
That's the show for today. If you're listening on Spotify, be sure to check out the poll related to this episode by scrolling down in your app. There are more exciting conversations to come this season, so I hope you'll subscribe or share the show with a friend if you've been enjoying what you've heard so far. As always, you can find more from me at lindsaytrimuta.com and at the New Paris Dispatch on Substack. À très bientôt.